Let's talk about it now with former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Karl Rove. He is also a Fox News contributor. So, Karl, where is President Biden going wrong, and what was working under former President Trump?
Yeah, well, we don't have enough time to talk about everything going wrong because there's a lot going wrong. One statement that he made that I found just appalling was right after that clip that you ran. He explained this confusion about, why he hadn't moved to raise the number of refugees the U.S. would accept. He said, we can't do two things at once on the border. Well, that's ridiculous because every president has to do 5 or maybe 6 things simultaneously along the border. You got to deal with legal border crossings of trade and goods and people. You have to secure the border against illegal crossings. You have to return illegals either to Mexico, if that's where they came from, or their home country. You have to process and adjudicate the claims of refugee status, and you have to process legal immigration. And in the modern era, we've also accepted a responsibility to try and do something with the conditions in the country of origins where we're seeing a surge of migration, like from the so-called triangle countries, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. So, the idea that he can't do 2 things at once is an appalling statement on this whole administration's handling of the immigration issue.
Karl, I mean, it was muffled. He's soft-spoken anyway, and with a mask, I couldn't really hear him. But what I thought, and Stephen, if you want to have this re-rack for me, what I thought I heard President Biden say that we couldn't do 2 things at the same time. Now they're getting on track to doing all the tackling all the multiple issues that you just laid out. So if y'all have that for me, you can replay it. Let me know when it's ready. You have it for me now?
The problem was that the refugees Karl was working on the crisis that ended up on the border with young people. We couldn't do 2 things at once now, so now we're going to increase the number.
Okay, so yeah, that's what it seems like he's looking forward to move forward. He's looking ahead to moving forward to tackling multiple issues. But let's move on right now, Karl, because you mentioned those the countries of origination. Vice President Harris says that her role is to tackle the root of the problem from where the surge stems. So does it make sense for a U.S. statesman to deal with the heads of states, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador? And what does Vice President Harris need to accomplish with that strategy?
Well, first of all, it is reasonable and responsible to do so, but realize that's a long-term solution. I was in the White House trying to get to, when we tried to end catch and release, the idea that people came across the border, got released into our society, and never showed back up for their court dates. And so we had to deal with these same countries in order to reduce the flow of illegal immigrants coming across the borders. But it takes time, and in the meantime, you cannot let up on the other responsibilities. Look, the administration was turning a blind eye. Starting in November, as people thought that Biden was going to change the policies along the border, the numbers began growing dramatically. And by January, 78,000 apprehensions at the border compared to 41,000 last year. By February, it was 101,000 compared to 37,000 last year. 173,000 in March compared to 34,000 last year. And the prime months for movement across the border are yet to come, April, May, and June. So we're in a bad situation, and they knew it, and they weren't doing enough to stop it.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I'm sorry because I'm short on time and I know you have a lot to say, and I do want to ask you, Karl, because you are a strategist. You've been there. So how would you tackle this current border crisis? And break it down for me in ways that the viewers can understand because you know it so well.
Well, first of all, remember, we're dealing with a highly efficient and very smart criminal enterprise in the traffickers. Many of them are tied to drug cartels. They're trying to overwhelm the system. That's why we're seeing a large number of unassisted children being tossed across the border, being forced across the border, brought across the border, because they know that'll overwhelm the system. So you got to deal with that. It calls for extraordinary measures.
But what is that? Wait, stop, because that's a big deal. How do you deal with that? That's a huge deal.
Well, you get ahead of it, and they haven't gotten ahead of it. You open up emergency facilities. You start using military bases. You start creating special facilities for these people. You do everything you possibly can, and they've been doing little to nothing on this issue as it grows worse and worse and worse. But you also have to, at the same time, send a very strong signal: don't come. because if you come, we're going to send you back, and the money that you've given to the traffickers is going to be flushed down the toilet, and you're going to end up back where you were when this is all done. And instead, they have said, well, we're going to raise the refugee cap, and we're trying to be, we're not the previous administration, we're not building the wall. And these are the wrong signals to take, because there's a criminal enterprise using every one of those signals in order to convince a large number of people to invest their money with those criminal enterprises and bring their families and children north, or to bring themselves north. What we're not paying attention to is there are a huge number of single adults who are coming across the border. Take a look at that. 65,000 in January compared to 25,000 last year. By March, it's 100,000 compared to 27,000. I mean, this is a criminal enterprise, and they got to get ahead of it. They're not.
All right. Well, you made really good points. I understand that. I think, and you're right, they had a big problem with messaging at the beginning, and now they're trying to say, no, the border's not open, do not come. So we'll see if they can get that message there stronger now.